Hey everyone, welcome to this video on top 10 most covered microtonal songs. I'm really excited to get started. Now, there aren't a lot of metrics to really evaluate the popularity of these except for views because they're not like super popular, I guess, but there are a lot of songs that have been covered microtonally that a lot of people know. And then there are also sort of other categories of microtonal songs where it's a microtonal song and people are playing it in that original tuning. So there are a few different categories of things. I'm trying to include songs that I think have been fairly popular, that a lot of people know, sort of like in a mass way or like in popular culture. And I'm also covering songs that a lot of people have played, and I'm also covering them if the song is like really, really well known, even if it's not necessarily in pop culture. I should mention that in this top 10 list that I focused on covers that are things that are usually played like with acoustic instruments or a digitally re-rendered arrangements, and not things where like you've just taken the audio of something and you've changed the tonality of it as a little audio experiment. Otherwise I would have included All-Star, because like there are a few funny All-Star microtonal memes, but they're not really covers in the strictest sense. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Our number 10 song is Sun's Rise, and this is a song that was made by the I Am a Superstar Saga YouTube channel. So it's this nice little song that uses a piano ditty, and in 19-tone equal temperament, it modulates from B flat major to G sharp major. G sharp and A flat are different in 19-tone equal temperament. So the two covers that we have for this song, well, for one thing, I covered it with 19-tone equal tempered guitar and some other instruments, including a keyboard. So that was pretty fun. And then the other cover we have is from Darby Lee. It adds some swing to the original rhythm, which is in 5/4. So I thought that was a really exciting touch, and I thought his orchestration choices were really cool. So he took the approach where he was orchestrating things a lot differently than I was. I was sort of trying to copy the original orchestration with a few different things in it. Okay, number 9 is Blackbird by the Beatles. And, of course, this is a really well-known song that's normally in 12-tone equal temperament. The two covers that we have, again, are one cover by me in 19-tone equal temperament, using my 19-tone guitar, and then the other cover is H. Wakabayashi's cover, and she has like a multi-screen thing where she's singing and playing. It's very cool. Now, what's really interesting about covers of songs from 12-tone equal temperament put in other tunings is that there are a huge variety of approaches that you can take when translating one thing to the other. So the approach that I took is that I inserted extra notes from 19-tone equal temperament into the progressions at times, and this would extend the meter by like a few notes, right? If you've got some extras in between where the normal notes are. Blackbird. And then I think H. Wakabayashi's approach is more to use different quarter tone flavored intonations at certain points for expressive effect. So I thought our differences in approach were really cool. They're both definitely something you should check out. Blackbird by the Beatles. I tried to record mine outside to get that feel, just like how Paul recorded it initially. You know, it's a little bit like low quality on purpose. You can hear the birds chirping and all that stuff. And H. Wakabayashi's version is kind of the opposite, where she's playing a lot of different parts and it's a studio recording. Okay, let's move on to song number 8. Song number 8 is easily Blackwood's Microtonal Etudes, which are, of course, a golden chestnut, a classic, if you will, both because they are so old and because they are so accessible and because they've got so much analog warmth. and because the processes, I think, are kind of easy to hear even though the songs are microtonal. So these songs are really, really beloved in the microtonal community, and the two covers that we have for that are, well, there's one by me. I played a 15-tone equal-tempered keyboard arrangement. I hope to do it with all the etudes someday. I think that would be really cool. And then the other cover that you should know about is the one that Mono Neon did. So if you don't know who Mono Neon is, he is this incredible bassist. I think he was involved with Prince somehow? Maybe like the bassist of Prince's band? I don't know. I have no idea. But people in the comments can figure that out for me. So he plays some microtonal stuff, and one of the things he did was easily Blackwood's 16-note etude on the bass. So the difference between the 15-note etude and the 16-note etude in terms of scales is that in the 15-note etude, we use a 10-note symmetrical scale that can imitate the diatonic scale with subsets of 7 notes. In 16-tone equal temperament, you have the octatonic scale, but the minor seconds are just a little bit smaller, and the minor thirds are exactly the same. Okay, moving on to song number 7. Song number 7 is Gleam by Sevish. Now, I mentioned Gleam as one song, but there's also so many other songs that have been covered that are by Sevish. So that's kind of the main reason I wanted to bring this up, because, you know, lots of microtonal artists are out there writing just microtonal music, and usually their music doesn't get covered very much, or maybe like 1 or 2 songs get covered. I've covered most of Elaine Walker's songs on my channel, but that might be an exception. Sevish has had lots of different people cover a lot of his different music. Not an excessive number, but enough to like kind of have a body of work out there where people have been imitating it because it's so well known. So that's the main reason I mention it. Sevish himself also posts videos on his channel of songs that he's done in certain equal tuning but retuned to something else, which is very exciting because then you can hear it in those systems. Okay, so of course there's the Gleam cover that's by me. That's a 30-part instrumental cover. You should definitely check that out. I put a lot of work into it. There's, of course, a version of Gleam that Sevish posted that is in 12-tone equal temperament. So it's been robbed of a lot of its nuance, especially in the linear harmonies, in that way. And then there's also somebody who took the 12 EDO and the 21 EDO versions and put them together. So it looks like the person who combined Gleam into a 22 EDO and 12 EDO version at the same time is Harry. And it's very funny to listen to the 22 EDO version on the left and the 12 EDO on the right, and like removing your headphone earbuds to like isolate them. It's kind of a cool educational experiment in addition to the normal things that Sevish does to his tracks. So I know that Gleam is the song, but I need to mention a few other covers that people have done. For one thing, Mono Neon has actually done a cover of a Sevish song in 23-tone equal temperament called Twisted Flax. Mono Neon was using that near 5 equal sound in his bass playing, and it sounds great. Another cover that somebody did is Piano Dog's version of Ganymede, which is a song by Sevish in 22-tone equal temperament. He has a piano cover of that that's really, really beautiful, so you should definitely listen to that. Now, I could have sworn that someone had done a transcription of Sevish's Desert Island Rain, but I couldn't find it when I looked, so maybe somebody will post the link to that. So that's something else cool that somebody has done to a Sevish song. Okay, moving on to number 6, songs from Star Wars. The Microtonal Cantina Band. Now, this is a song from Star Wars that's covered by The Rasa, and Toga Hancholi reposted it on his channel because it's just so entertaining, so well done, and a really excellent way to hear all these different equal tunings in one context. The idea, of course, is that whenever aliens are playing music in popular culture, they've been blandly tuned in 12-tone equal temperament, which is highly unrealistic. It's like aliens having independently evolved to speak English. I love that Simpsons joke where they talk about that to the aliens, and then the aliens say, by exact coincidences, Rajalese and English are exactly the same. So this Microtonal Cantina Band thing is really great by the Rossi. You should definitely look at it, and look at the visual keyboards that he also changes quickly or absurdly for the purposes of humor, which I think is something that should be done more for sure. So that is a really, really cool cover. There's also another song from Star Wars that's been covered microtonally that's really important. The Imperial March has been rendered in 17-tone equal temperament by a band called the Mercury Tree, and they are really, really fantastic. Not only is their rendering super cool because it features live instruments, so it sounds great on your ears, but they also throw in a few little extra beats here and there to give it a kind of prog vibe, which is definitely in their wheelhouse. So you should definitely listen to that if you get a chance. It's absolutely fantastic. Okay, coming in at number 5 is Giant Steps. Giant Steps has become really popular recently because lots of jazz musicians and jazz educational channels on YouTube have heightened it as this song with really, really hard changes that are really chromatic. And I mean, it's obviously been famous for years. It's just that I think it's seen a resurgence in internet culture, especially. So that might be part of the reason why people are interested in making it microtonal. Also because lots of microtonal chord progressions work well with chromaticism. If you just have something diatonic, then there's not as much room for adventure and for decision making as far as arrangement goes, as far as picking certain intonations of something goes. So you get more adventurous possibilities if you pick a chromatic song and then figure out how to change that. So Giant Steps is really interesting because, as you probably know from many other places on the internet, the chord progressions use cycling major thirds that get back to the original note. So this fits in equal temperaments that divide by 3. So all the covers of Giant Steps that I've heard haven't used that. They've done different things. And it seems like there might be one more cover of Giant Steps on the internet than is given credit for. There's a cover of Giant Steps using 19-tone equal temperament, and there's actually 2 of them that I know of. So one of them is on this channel, Leonard Bud's channel. Leonard Bud has this cool video where he has the visual of the keyboard and Giant Steps is playing in 19-tone equal temperament. And then I'm pretty sure that Neil Haverstick has a version somewhere, because I know he was talking to me about that, but I don't know where I could find it or where it is. So that's 2 versions. There's also another channel that you should know about, Nick Rushton Given's channel. He does a lot of microtonal covers that are really entertaining, where he's like re-rendered the MIDI and done the arrangement himself. He has 4 different versions of Giant Steps. He has one in 31 tone equal temperament, one in 15, one in 7, and one in 9, and they all sound very different. I think this is a really, really cool example of what it means to render a song in a lot of different tunings and how you can convey that meaning to somebody. Because if people don't understand microtonality, they might think it's really unnecessary. But I think microtonalists are drawn to the unique kinds of sounds they can get out of this situation and just how many unique sounds there are. So the more tunings we can render a single song in, the more we can convey that to somebody. So they're like, oh, it could sound like this, or like this, or like this, or like this, instead of just, here's 12-tone equal temperament, here's a wonky version. There's more of a nuanced comparison. It reminds me of what Sevish does on his channel with his different songs, rendering them in different tunings. So yeah, definitely check out Nick Rushton Given's channel for sure. And then of course there's one more I want to mention. Joe Manzo did a version of Giant Steps that is in 31-tone equal temperament, and I believe he used Tonescape to do it. The link is down there. And he talks about the theory and the chord progressions quite a bit too, which is really cool. Okay, coming in at number 4 is Sleep Drifter by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. So this song is interesting because it's not anything like, you know, a nursery rhyme or like an old piece of European music where like a bunch of people who went to music school know it. But it's pop music essentially that uses microtonality. So it got popular really fast, and since this was on Flying Microtonal Banana, you know, some people I think got microtonal guitars just so they could play this. Here are 3 guitar sort of follow-along covers where people are using the guitars to play along. You can see that 2 of them have a microtonal guitar, and then one of the guys has just a standard guitar, but doesn't play the microtones, which causes some discordance. And then there's this other cover where somebody is singing and playing, and they kind of sing the microtones, but the fact that they're playing the standard note on the guitar means that their allegiance isn't really very strong on that note, so it sounds just a little bit wrong.
Drifting in and out of sleep, it's my favorite state to be. I can see you next to me, and it is lovely. sleep drifter, I can feel.
So, this song, of course, is so popular that it's been covered, even though it's a microtonal song, it's been covered in 12-tone equal temperament because people want to play it so much. So we have a rare kind of reversal of how things usually work. Usually you've got a song in 12-tone equal temperament, or often played in 12-tone equal temperament, even if it's historically inaccurate. And that's usually translated into something microtonal. And here we have a song that so many people want to play that's microtonal that they've been sort of forced to play it in 12-tone equal temperament. So I've noticed that they always make the same choices. The scale that we have in the King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard song, the Sleep Drifter, uses a second that's in between major and minor, and a sixth that's in between major and minor. When non-microtonal guitarists are playing along, they choose the major second and the major sixth in both cases instead of the minor one. Probably because the neutral, the one that's in between major and minor, in the second and the sixth, probably it sounds a little bit more like it's a major detuned than a minor, because a minor second sort of has, I think, maybe a different character to it. So it's interesting that they would pick that. There's also a really cool bass video that somebody made where they play the tablature along to Sleep Drifter with a bass guitar, but they bend to get the quarter tones, and this is really reasonable on a 12-tone guitar because a quarter tone is a really small bend to make and it's pretty easy to find. It's not even bad as bending a half step on the guitar. So I definitely recommend listening to that to hear how that's done, because you can bend things sharp to get that note from the minor second and the minor sixth. Tolga Han-Cholu, of course, has also covered Sleep Drifter and talked about how it's been copied from Kara Toprak, and there's that whole saga if you haven't kept up with that. And he has a really, really beautiful version of Sleep Drifter that's covered with electric microtonal guitar, where he plays with the rhythm and the rubato and the phrasing. I really enjoy Tolga Han-Cholu's cover. It's really, really fantastic. Okay, coming in at number 3 is Happy Birthday. You guessed it. Since everybody knows Happy Birthday and everybody makes microtonal jokes about it, of course there have to be a lot of microtonal covers of Happy Birthday. Now, there are a few covers of Happy Birthday that I couldn't find because I'm not sure what happened. Maybe they got deleted or something. I think Fabrizio Fulvo Fiale, he made one in 25 EDO that was on SoundCloud, but I could not find it. So I don't know if it got deleted or what happened. And there was definitely another one that I heard in 19 EDO. So for ones I didn't find Happy Birthday in 19 or 25, but I know that they existed at one time, and I've even had conversations about that with people. Some of the other Happy Birthday covers that exist are this MuseScore version that I found online that I think uses just intonation. You can see in the notation in here in the deviation that that's kind of where things are going. Usually you can tell if something is tuned near justly because it'll probably be written with 12-tone equal temperament notation, and the cent values will probably tend to form in certain chunks, like, 31 cents away and 15 cents away, being the normal kinds of deviations that you would have. So that's one version. Another version is on Facebook that I found with this really, really cool instrument. So the person who made this video is Matti Kovler, and he's got this really cool spinning wheel as he's playing piano. I'm not sure exactly what scale he's playing for Happy Birthday, but it sounds really microtonal, and he's mentioned that. I'm surprised I didn't find more Happy Birthday covers. I know that the running joke is that if you were to just noodle up any microtonal song really quickly, it'd probably be Happy Birthday, but I was surprised that I found so few. Okay, so 2 more covers of Happy Birthday that there are, which are really great. One of them is Jacob Collier's Happy Birthday, where he uses an ascending quarter tone line. Singing Happy Birthday to Tom. I don't know who Tom is, but I guess Tom got a really cool arrangement of Happy Birthday with some neat quarter tones in it.
But no trace of the melody at all.
And then, of course, I have a version of Happy Birthday where I play in 14-tone equal temperament for my brother. Not because I picked it for any reason, but because my keyboard just happened to be in 14 and it happened to be my brother's birthday. So I just decided I would play it using that, using the white keys for it. This 6L2S Mod Boss that Elaine Walker is also using for her 14-tone keyboard, which you should definitely check out if you haven't. Okay, and then, of course, there's also this pattern of playing like things like nursery rhymes or like songs we sing to kids in microtonal tuning, since those are songs that like a lot of people know. So two other great examples are on H. Wakabayashi's channel. There's a version of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star that she has where she's got the whole keyboard set to 88 notes per octave. And you know, a standard 12-tone keyboard has 88 keys running all the way up, so the entire keyboard is just an octave, which I think is really funny. And she does this thing, which she does in a lot of her songs on her channel, where like, if she's got a song that uses just a lot of microtonal notes, instead of playing discrete pitches that she likes as values, she'll jump to a pitch and then play clusters around it to kind of give it a little bit of a seasick feel. So that's a really cool example of mixing the feelings of detuning and microtonality in a kind of cover. So that's one version of one of those kinds of songs. And then another version that's really important is Stephen James Taylor's version of Row, Row, Row Your Boat in 31-tone equal temperament. He has a really cool explanation where he's got sort of a mean tone scale running down the middle, and then he's got two different cracks running on the sides in the geometry, and he explains it in a really, really user-friendly way that's easy to understand in here. So you should definitely listen to that, Row, Row, Row Your Boat in 31-tone equal temperament.
Now, in a parallel universe, you have another version of yourself, a clone, with the same mother, father, sister, brother, etc. Except this version of yourself is 1 inch shorter. Everything else about your life exactly the same. So you would never know, had you not heard this, that if you go, it's the same melody.
You'd think that he would play one version in the normal intonation and then maybe like switch to another version in a fugal way, but he doesn't do that. He does something else way more surprising. So that's why you should look at it. Okay, coming in at number 2 is Jingle Bells. Yes, Jingle Bells. So there were actually some ties here because Christmas songs are kind of like nursery rhymes and old European songs where a lot of people know them just by being exposed to them for a long time and, you know, having them being around for a really long time. And the other two songs that were kind of tied with Jingle Bells are Silent Night and God Ye Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. What I really should do for this one is I should give you a list of 3 of the best resources I have found for Zen harmonic covers of Christmas music, and there might be more out there that I don't know about. So I'd love to hear your comments about things that maybe I've missed or that I should know about. So with Jingle Bells, there's 3 different really novel approaches that are taken. One of them is my cover of Jingle Bells, which is in 7-tone equal temperament, uses marimba and vocoder and glides around all over the place. And I employ a very weird modulation on purpose to trick your ear and how it hears that in-between third in 7-tone equal temperament. Adam Neely has a version of Jingle Bells on his Christmas Lo-Fi Microtonal Hip Hop EP, which is very cool. He mixes the Jingle Bells melody with Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, and he sort of interweaves those together in 19-tone equal temperament. It's very satisfying and doesn't really sound that out of tune. It's almost like the lo-fi effect contributes a little bit more to that. 19-tone equal temperament, as you know, can sound really diatonic. Adam Neely's approach on that EP is to use things like linear harmony, just things you find in jazz. So it's a really fresh take on that whole thing, not only because it's microtonal, but also because the harmony isn't just diatonic chords in another tuning. And because it's not quarter tones, so that's nice. And And then another version of Jingle Bells comes from Carlo Serafini. He has this version that's called Jingle Gamma Bells, which I believe is in the gamma scale, and it's so fun. It's a riot. In fact, I think there's actually a video of him playing it on a hexagonal keyboard, so I will definitely post that if I get it. Okay, so now to mention some of the other Christmas songs. So basically the three resources I'm using here are, well, there's Adam Neely's Lo-Fi Hip Hop Christmas EP. There's my Christmas album, Zen Harmonic Chocolate, which is in a few different tunings. The tunings that Adam uses are 17 equal, 19 equal, 24 equal. The ones that I use are 15 equal, 21 equal, and 19 equal. And then there are assorted other various Christmas songs because Christmas songs are so popular to cover. And I've gathered those all up on SoundCloud into a playlist called Christmas Zen Harmonic. So there's some stuff by formerly Gareth Hearn there. There's stuff by Piano Dog, also known as William Lynch, Camp Taylor, and there are a few other really cool songs. There's one by Scott Thompson that goes through like the 12 EDOs of Christmas, which is really funny. Playing the 12 Days of Christmas with a different EDO each time, so that's kind of fun. I'm surprised more people haven't done that. And another one I also need to mention that's really important. Jacob Barton has a really, really amazing cover of Joy to the World that uses 19-tone equal temperament and maps 2 degrees from 12-tone equal temperament to 2 degrees of 19. And 1 degree of 12 to 1 degree of 19. So that when the Joy to the World major scale descends, normally you cover a significant amount of ground, but in Jacob Barton's version it just covers like a lot less ground, and he's constructed really cool chord progressions out of that in klezmic 11, chromatic scale and 19-tone equal temperament. So you definitely should check that out. It's got utterbots, it's got rhythmic modulations, it's kind of insane and awesome and impressive, and I wish I could mention more kinds of cover songs here because there's so much that's been done. But I think that's all I can do within keeping in the theme of Christmas in the number 2 slot, with the technical winner song being Jingle Bells in that category. Okay. And now, of course, our number 1 song is Pachelbels Canon in D. I say this because a lot of people know this song and they can hear the difference microtonally, and it's been compared a lot of different ways. The interesting thing about the Canon in D chord progression is, unlike most progressions that are very European, it doesn't need to be tempered in mean tone to work, which means that you can use a slightly different intonation for, like, the minor third of the 6th chord and the main note of the 1 chord, so that everything is in tune with each other. There just would be these slight differences between notes that are far away in the progression, so that you might not really hear the difference. So I'm pretty sure there's also been a Pachelbel Canon in D that has drifted, but I couldn't find that again. I don't know where it is. So yeah, Circular 17 has a version that's in 31-tone equal temperament, and Circular 17 even gives the notes used. Some of the extra notes that are used are F double sharp, B sharp, and E sharp, probably for different intonations on certain chords. There's also a fair amount of fascination in using septimal harmony, like tuning some of the chords to the 7 limit so that things sound interesting. Okay, so that's one version of Pachelbels Canon. Another version of Pachelbels Canon is by Cloudy Menigan, and he does all of these different covers with counterpoint. So his version of this is really cool because he plays in 3 different temperaments. He plays it in just tuning, he plays it in mean tone, and he plays it in 12 equal for a comparison. And he's got the music right up on the screen, so that's a great comparison video. There's also a Canon in D video by Scrolling Music, which shows the MIDI, and you get to hear the sounds in just intonation. Although some of the sounds are a little bit wobbly, so, usually in just intonation, you kind of want a dead-on, straight-ahead sound so that you can really hear that it's in tune, and, his own, but I mean, I think this is great. You still get to hear, I think, a slightly notable difference in that stuff. And then, of course, the king of retuning Pachelbels Canon in D is Herman Miller. I have left a link to the page on his website where he talks about the warped canon and goes into detail about the different tunings of Pachelbels Canon and all of the different ways that he has rendered it. In fact, it's a darn shame that Herman Miller hasn't been mentioned more in this video, just because he's covered so many different kinds of songs. So if you're interested in microtonal cover songs as a general subject, you should definitely check out Nick Rushton-Givens and Herman Miller. They are very important. Well, hopefully this was a fun video and gave you a little bit of insight into what some of the most covered microtonal songs are and what that means. Maybe you have ideas about which microtonal songs are actually more popular that I completely missed, or you have suggestions for songs that you think microtonalists should cover next. So if you have any of those, please leave a comment. Be sure to like and subscribe. I hate saying that every time, but if you don't say it, nobody does anything, so sorry, Charlie. Alright, I'll see you later.